Capitol Police say they will open regional field offices in California and Florida to investigate threats against members of Congress. Last month, the department says that threats against lawmakers were up 107% from last year. It's part of an effort to step up security 6 months after that deadly attack on the Capitol by supporters of former President Trump. In addition to expanding localized efforts, Capitol Police are working to address failures discovered by an internal watchdog. That includes purchasing new protective gear and sending its civil disturbance unit to train with the National Guard. For more, I want to bring in CBS News reporter Cassidy McDonald. She's been following the Capitol riot investigation. Hi, Cassidy. Thank you for being here. What are we learning from this Justice Department's just released numbers on where the federal investigation stands?
Well, we learned today that more than 535 defendants have now been arrested in more than 50 states. That's according to new numbers just out today from the Justice Department. And those arrests also include charges for some of the violence that day. We know now that 165 people at least have been charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers or employees that day. And most recently, 6 have been charged for assault on members of the media or destroying their equipment. A smaller group, 40, have been charged with conspiracy. And this is a big one. 235 defendants have been charged with corruptly obstructing, influencing, or impeding an official proceeding or attempting to do so. Now, we know now that this is a pretty serious charge. We've seen at least one person plead guilty to this charge alone, and he's facing a recommended sentence of about 1 to 2 years. But Caitlin, a lot of questions still remain. We know that they have not arrested anyone in connection with those pipe bombs that were placed in D.C. that day, and about 300 people remain on the FBI's wanted list, still unidentified.
Wow, that is incredible. It really shows the scope of just how bad this was and the idea that they still haven't been able to apprehend whoever planted those pipe bombs. That's pretty scary. I want to ask you about this coalition of media organizations, which includes CBS News, continuing to seek access to videos. And this was entered as evidence in some of these federal cases. Can you tell us which videos have been recently obtained and what's holding some of the others up?
Well, just today, we obtained videos from the cases of 2 people who were accused of assaulting officers during the attack January 6th. One of those, Thomas Cibic, he's accused of assaulting Officer Michael Fanone, who says he was dragged into the crowd that day, beaten, tased repeatedly. And in the video that courts released today, this is slowed down footage. Prosecutors say that you can see the moment where Cibic steals Officer Fanone's police badge and radio. And in another video, this is the case of Bruno Kua. He's an 18-year-old. He's the youngest rioter we know to have been charged. And prosecutors say that he shoved a plainclothes police officer while he was trying to lock the doors to the Senate chambers that day. Now, these cases, these videos are being released on a case-by-case basis according to individual judges in those cases. So we'll see a trickle of videos continuing to come out as the judges approve those for public release.
And what about on Capitol Hill with Capitol Police? What more can you tell us about some of the reforms within the Capitol Police Department that are coming in the wake of January 6th?
Well, Capitol Police have obviously been under a huge amount of pressure to reform. They've faced reports and inquiries from at least 7 different agencies and committees, rather. They've also faced pressure from their own officers. More than 70 have resigned or retired since the attack 6 months ago. Today, we learned that Capitol Police have planned to open regional field offices outside of D.C. in Florida, in California, with plans to open more locations possibly in the near future. And this is all part of an effort to improve their ability to investigate threats. So they're Capitol Police. They're known as a police agency, but their inspector general says they should be operating more like a protective agency, something like the Secret Service. So this is all part of that reform. We also learned that they're increasing training for the unit that responds to civil disturbances. They've sent those officers recently to train with police in Seattle. And even still, Capitol Police are facing some staffing shortages. They've asked for more money. One bill would allocate millions of dollars for overtime pay, better equipment, even trauma counseling for officers. But that bill still has yet to pass in the Senate.
Right, that's an important point and something that we'll be keeping an eye on in terms of legislation. And just a reminder of how egregious this insurrection was. That it's really causing these needed changes to Capitol Police. There were so many defendants, as you mentioned, related to these cases and charges. Do you know when we might expect any of these to actually go to trial?
Well, in the cases of there's a 16-person case against alleged Oath Keepers. That's a far-right extremist group. Some of those are attached to militias. 16 people have been charged together in a single conspiracy indictment. So in this huge case last week, we saw a prosecutor and a judge asked to set trial dates for next year. They've split these into two potential trials in February and April of next year. There's so many people that they might not fit into one case. And the courts are going to be so backed up after COVID has closed courthouses for about a year. So we can expect some scheduling challenges as other cases go to trial as well. One more update that we'll be watching out for in that case of the Oath Keepers, a prosecutor in that case said that she thinks we could see more plea deals throughout the summer in that case. So we'll be watching to see who decides to cooperate with prosecutors and what new information that could bring as well.
Well, Cassidy McDonald, I know you've been covering every inch of these investigations and charges. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.